Captain Jake Miller drifted through the Ceres belt in his salvage ship Lucky Strike, scanning for valuable debris. A grizzled human had spent 15 years picking through space junk, finding enough scraps to keep his small operation running. Most days brought nothing but twisted metal and dead satellites. But today was different. His sensors picked up something massive buried deep within Asteroid Cluster 7 Alpha. The readings made no sense. The object was too large, too old, and made of materials his computer couldn't identify. Jake maneuvered his ship closer, using mining lasers to clear away centuries of accumulated rock and ice. What he found took his breath away. A ship emerged from the asteroid's heart, sleek, organic-looking, and easily 3 times the size of his own vessel. Strange symbols covered its hull, glowing faintly with inner light. No human had ever seen anything like it. This was alien technology, ancient beyond measure. Jake's hands shook as he suited up for EVA. First contact protocols demanded he report this to Earth Command immediately, but the salvager in him knew better. By the time the military arrived, they'd claim everything and leave him with nothing. He'd spent too many years broke to pass up the discovery of a lifetime. The alien ship's hull had been breached in several places, making entry possible. Jake's helmet lights revealed corridors that seemed grown rather than built, walls that curved like the inside of a shell. Strange plants had taken root in the lower levels, somehow surviving in the vacuum of space. He found the bridge after an hour of careful exploration. The command center was vast, with control surfaces that seemed to flow like liquid when he approached. At the center sat a throne-like chair, and beside it, a cylindrical chamber filled with glowing blue fluid. Something moved inside the chamber. Jake pressed his face against the transparent material and gasped. A humanoid figure floated within, tall, graceful, with silver skin and elongated features. Definitely alive, definitely not human. Tubes and wires connected to its body suggested some kind of suspended animation system. The salvager knew he should leave, report his findings, let the experts handle first contact. But the chamber's systems were failing. Warning lights blinked frantically, and the blue fluid had dropped to dangerous levels. Whatever was inside would die without immediate help. Jake had always been good with machines, human or otherwise. He spent 3 hours tracing the alien systems, using his repair tools to bypass damaged circuits and restore power to the critical life support systems. The blue fluid began rising again, and the warning lights stopped flashing. As he worked, Jake noticed other chambers throughout the ship, hundreds of them, all dark and empty. This being was the sole survivor of what had once been a much larger crew. The ship itself showed signs of ancient battle damage, weapons burns that had never been properly repaired. The alien's eyes suddenly opened, focusing directly on Jake through the chamber wall. They were large, golden, and filled with an intelligence. That made the human take an involuntary step backward. The being raised one long-fingered hand and placed it against the chamber wall. Matching Jake's position. Complex symbols appeared on nearby displays, mathematical sequences, star charts, and what looked like historical records. The alien was trying to communicate, sharing its knowledge with the primitive human who had saved its life. Jake's suit computer began recording everything, automatically translating the simpler mathematical concepts. What he saw made him realize the true magnitude of his discovery. This wasn't just first contact. This was contact with a civilization millions of years more advanced than humanity. The being in the chamber gestured toward the ship's main displays, which suddenly came alive with images of vast fleets, impossible technologies, and star-spanning civilizations. But there was something else in the recordings, scenes of destruction, of worlds burning, of this very ship fleeing some terrible catastrophe. As Jake watched, transfixed, the alien's golden eyes took on an expression he recognized despite their different species. It was gratitude, mixed with urgent warning. The being was trying to tell him something important, something that could change the course of human history. The ship's system suddenly registered Jake's presence and began full activation sequences. Lights came on throughout the vessel, artificial. Gravity engaged, and the very walls seemed to wake from their ancient slumber. The alien ship was coming back to life after countless centuries of dormancy. Jake realized with growing excitement and terror that he had done more than save a single alien life. He had awakened something that had been sleeping in the asteroid, field for longer than human civilization had existed, something that might hold the key to humanity's future among the stars. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were far more capable than anyone had imagined. The alien's chamber began to drain as automated systems completed their revival sequence. Jake watched in fascination as the being's eyes tracked his movements, clearly studying this strange creature that had saved its life. When the chamber finally opened with a soft hiss, the alien stepped out gracefully, despite having been in suspension. For millennia, it stood nearly 7 feet tall, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the ship's restored lighting. When it spoke, Jake's suit translator struggled with the complex language before finally producing recognizable words in his helmet speakers. "I am Kira of the Ancients," the being said, its voice melodious despite the electronic translation. "You have awakened me from the long sleep. I am in your debt, small one." Jake removed his helmet, gambling that the ship's atmosphere was safe. His lungs filled with clean, slightly sweet air. Jake Miller, human salvager. "I didn't know anyone was alive in here. Your life support was failing." Kira tilted its head, studying Jake with those penetrating golden eyes. "Human. Yes, I see the records now. Your species has barely begun to walk among the stars. Yet you possess the skill to repair ancient technology and the wisdom to preserve life rather than simply take." The alien moved to the ship's main console, long fingers dancing across controls that responded to its touch like living things. Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing star maps that spanned the entire galaxy. Jake saw Earth marked as a tiny blue dot in one small spiral arm. "Your people call this the Milky Way," Kira said. "We knew it as the Great Spiral when my civilization ruled among these stars. That was long before your sun ignited, before your world cooled enough for life to take hold." Jake stared at the displays, trying to comprehend the vast scale of time Kira was describing. "How long were you asleep?" "By your measurements, approximately 4 million years." Kira's expression grew somber. "I am the last of my kind, the final, guardian of knowledge that spans eons. My people built an empire of peace and learning that stretched across 1,000 worlds. What happened to them?" The displays shifted, showing scenes of devastation, worlds stripped bare, stars going dark, entire solar systems reduced to lifeless husks. The devourers came from beyond our galaxy, beings of pure hunger that consume not just matter and energy, but life itself. We fought for 10,000 years, but they were relentless. In the end, we could only delay the inevitable. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Are they still out there? They move between galaxies in great cycles, feeding on one before moving to the next. They have been dormant in the void between stars, but their time of awakening approaches. Kira turned to face Jake directly. "Your species interests me, human. In 4 million years of sleep, my ship's sensors have monitored your world. You are young, violent, and chaotic, yet you show potential that even the ancients did not possess." "What kind of potential?" Kira gestured, and the displays showed human history, wars, discoveries, the first tentative steps into space. "You adapt, you survive. You find solutions that older, more established civilizations cannot see. When faced with impossible odds, humans do not surrender. they innovate. The alien moved to a wall panel that opened at its approach, revealing a crystalline device the size of Jake's fist. It pulsed with the same blue light as the suspension fluid. This contains the accumulated knowledge of my people, sciences beyond your current understanding, technologies that could advance your civilization by millions of years. But knowledge alone will not save you from what is coming. Jake reached for the crystal, then hesitated. Why are you giving this to me? Why not wait for Earth's governments or military? Because governments and militaries think in terms of control and conquest. They would use ancient knowledge to build weapons and claim dominion over other species. But you, Jake Miller, you chose to save a life when you could have simply taken treasures. That choice reveals the true nature of your character. The crystal felt warm in Jake's hands, and suddenly his mind filled with images, vast libraries of information, blueprints for technologies that could revolutionize human civilization, star maps showing hidden worlds and ancient secrets. But underneath all the wonder was an urgent message of warning. The Devourers will return within your lifetime, Kira said. Perhaps 50 of your years, perhaps less. Humanity must be ready to face them, but not as you are now. You must unite your people, share this knowledge wisely, and prepare for a war unlike anything your species has ever imagined. Jake looked up from the crystal, questions flooding his mind. But he was no longer looking at just an alien survivor. Kira represented hope, the hope that humanity might succeed where even the mighty ancients had failed. The fate of the galaxy now rested in human hands. Asterisk Kira led Jake deeper into the ancient ship, through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves as they walked. The vessel was alive in ways human technology couldn't match, its walls pulsing gently with bioluminescent patterns that responded to their presence. Your ship is incredible, Jake said, running his hand along a surface that felt warm and smooth, like polished stone. How does it work? We learned long ago that the best technology is grown, not built, Kira explained. This vessel is part machine, part living organism. It can heal itself, evolve its capabilities, and even reproduce given the right resources. Your people still think in terms of metal and circuits, but life is far more adaptable. They entered what Kira called the memory core, a vast chamber filled with floating crystals similar to the one Jake carried. Each crystal glowed with different colors, representing different aspects of ancient knowledge. Some contained scientific principles, others held historical records, and a few pulsed with dangerous red light. Those are weapons, Kira said, noting Jake's gaze. Technologies we created in desperation during the final wars. They should never be used unless the alternative is total extinction. Jake nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility being placed on his shoulders. How do I even begin to share all this? My people aren't ready for technology this advanced. It could destroy us before the Devourers even arrive. Wisdom beyond your years, Kira said approvingly. Many species have destroyed themselves with knowledge they weren't prepared to handle. But humans have something most races lack. You are natural teachers and learners. You share information freely, build upon each other's discoveries, and adapt quickly to new circumstances. The alien selected a green glowing crystal and handed it to Jake. Start with this, medical technology that can extend human lifespans and eliminate most diseases. It will seem miraculous to your people, but won't immediately destabilize your civilization. As they grow accustomed to one advance, gradually introduce others. Jake felt the crystal's warmth merge with the first one he carried. Suddenly his mind flooded with understanding of human biology he'd never possessed before. He could see how to repair genetic damage, regrow lost limbs, even reverse aging. The implications were staggering. But don't just give this knowledge to your governments, Kira warned. Distribute it widely. to universities, hospitals, independent researchers. Let it spread naturally through your scientific community. No single group should control what could benefit all humanity. What about space technology? We're still using chemical rockets and basic fusion drives. Kira smiled, an expression that looked strange on the alien features, but somehow conveyed warmth and humor. Patience. First, your people must learn to work together as a species. The greatest threat to any civilization is not external enemies, but internal division. The devourers conquer by turning species against themselves. The alien led Jake to another section of crystals, these glowing with silver light. These contain what you might call social technologies, methods of governance, communication, and cooperation that have proven successful across multiple civilizations. Study them carefully. As Jake touched the crystals, he began to understand concepts that human philosophers and political scientists had struggled with for centuries. He saw systems of government that balanced individual freedom with collective responsibility, economic models that eliminated poverty without destroying incentive, and communication methods that fostered understanding between vastly different cultures. There's so much, Jake said, feeling overwhelmed. How can one person handle all this responsibility? You cannot, Kira said simply, and you should not try. Find others you trust, people who share your values and wisdom. Form a small group to help guide humanity's development, but always remember that the goal is to make yourselves unnecessary. True success comes when your entire species has evolved beyond the need for guardians. The alien moved to a final set of crystals, these glowing with pure white light so bright it was almost painful to look at directly. These contain the most dangerous knowledge, weapons that can destroy stars, technologies that can manipulate time and space, powers that can make humans into gods. They are sealed until the devourers arrive. Only use them if no other option remains. Jake carefully took the white crystals, feeling their weight both physical and metaphorical. What happens to you now? Will you come to Earth? Kira shook its head. My time is ending. The revival process has awakened systems that cannot be stopped. I have perhaps days before my body fails completely. But this ship will serve you well. It has chosen you as its new captain. Chosen me? Ancient vessels are semi-sentient. They recognize worthiness in potential commanders. You have proven yourself through your actions. Kira placed a long-fingered hand on Jake's shoulder. The ship will teach you to pilot it, help you understand its capabilities, and serve as your base of operations as you prepare humanity for what is coming. Jake looked around the vast memory core, feeling the weight of an entire civilization's legacy. He was no longer just a salvager looking for scrap metal. He had become humanity's guardian against an unimaginable threat. 3 months after finding Kira's ship, Jake had established a secret base in the outer asteroid belt. The ancient vessel, which had introduced itself as Harmony, had grown additional structures using raw materials from nearby asteroids. What had once been a single ship was now a small space station, hidden from Earth's detection systems by advanced cloaking technology. Jake wasn't alone anymore. He had carefully recruited 12 individuals from around Earth, scientists, engineers, doctors, and philosophers, who had shown both brilliance and integrity in their fields. They called themselves the Guardians, though Jake insisted they were temporary stewards of humanity's future. Dr. Lisa Park, a brilliant geneticist from Seoul, was the first to master the medical crystals knowledge. Under her guidance, they had developed treatments for cancer, heart disease, and genetic disorders that would seem like miracles to the outside world. But rather than announce their discoveries, they were quietly introducing the treatments through established research channels, making it appear as natural scientific breakthroughs. The regenerative therapy trials in Mumbai are showing incredible results, Lisa reported during their weekly meeting in Harmony's main conference chamber. We're seeing complete spinal cord healing in cases that were previously considered hopeless. The researchers think they've discovered something revolutionary, not realizing we've guided them to the right combinations of compounds. Engineer Marcus Webb, formerly of NASA, had been working with the ship's propulsion technology. "I've figured out how to adapt ancient drive systems to human manufacturing capabilities," he said, projecting holographic blueprints into the air. "We can't build anything as sophisticated as Harmony, but we can create ships that will make chemical rockets look like steam engines." The ship's AI been invaluable in these adaptations. Harmony possessed Kira's memories and could explain ancient concepts in terms humans could understand. More importantly, it shared Kira's wisdom about gradual technological introduction. "Patience is essential," the ship reminded them in its melodious voice. The Xerians introduced faster-than-light travel to their society too quickly. Within 50 years, they had fractured into competing factions spread across the galaxy. By the time the Devourers arrived, they were too busy fighting each other to mount an effective defense. Jake studied the progress reports from around Earth. Their carefully seeded discoveries were beginning to bear fruit. Medical advances were extending lifespans and improving quality of life. Agricultural improvements were ending hunger in previously barren regions. Clean energy technologies were reducing pollution and environmental damage. But there were troubling signs as well. Several governments had noticed the unusual pattern of breakthroughs and were investigating. Military contractors were trying to weaponize the medical technologies. Some corporations were attempting to monopolize the new energy systems. "We need to accelerate the social technology implementation," said Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a former UN diplomat who specialized in international law. "All the scientific advances in the world won't help if humanity can't work together when the Devourers arrive." This was proving to be the most challenging aspect of their mission. Unlike medical or engineering knowledge, social and political concepts couldn't be introduced as simple discoveries. They required gradual cultural change, which took time humanity might not have. Jake walked to the chamber's viewing port, looking out at the stars while considering their options. In the distance, he could see Earth, a blue jewel that would soon face its greatest test. The white crystals containing the most dangerous ancient weapons sat in a secure vault deeper in the ship, waiting for the day they might be needed. Harmony. "What's our latest estimate on the Devourer's arrival?" Jake asked. "Analysis of deep space sensor data suggests 43 years, plus or minus 7 years, the ship replied. Their approach pattern matches historical records from other galaxies they have consumed. 43 years. Jake was only 35 now. He would likely live to see the invasion, assuming human lifespans continued to extend with their medical advances. His children and grandchildren would definitely face that threat. We need to start the next phase, Jake decided. It's time to reveal ourselves to Earth's leaders, but carefully. We can't let any single government or organization claim control over ancient technology. Dr. Park looked concerned. Are you sure we're ready? Once we go public, everything changes. We lose the advantage of secrecy. The alternative is worse, Jake replied. If we wait too long, we won't have time to unite humanity before the Devourers arrive. Better to risk exposure now than face them. As a divided species, Marcus pulled up star charts showing Earth's current space infrastructure. We have 43 years to turn a species that's barely reached Mars into a civilization capable of defending an entire galaxy. The ancients had millions of years of preparation and still fell. But the ancients didn't have humanity's greatest strength, Jake said, remembering Kira's words. They didn't have our ability to adapt and innovate under pressure. We're going to succeed where they failed, not despite being human, but because of it. The Guardians began planning humanity's greatest transformation. Jake stood before the United Nations Assembly, knowing that the next few minutes would change human history forever. World leaders, scientists, and media representatives filled the hall, all drawn by promises of a revelation that would reshape civilization. Hidden in orbit above Earth, Harmony waited with its cargo of guardian ships. Smaller vessels grown from the mothership's technology, each one proof of humanity's new capabilities. Distinguished delegates, Jake began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to reveal. My name is Jake Miller. 5 years ago, I was a salvage operator working the asteroid belt. Today, I stand before you as humanity's messenger, carrying knowledge that will determine whether our species survives the next 50 years. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Jake had specifically chosen this moment after years of miraculous medical breakthroughs, revolutionary energy systems, and unprecedented scientific discoveries had prepared the world for the impossible. The advances your nations have celebrated in recent years were not accidents or natural breakthroughs, Jake continued. They were gifts, carefully introduced by a small group of guardians who discovered something extraordinary in the depths of space. The main screen behind him activated, showing footage from his first encounter with Kira's ship. Gasps echoed through the hall as delegates watched Jake's helmet camera recording of the ancient vessel emerging from the asteroid. This is Harmony, a ship built by a civilization that ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. Inside, I found the last survivor of that race, a being called Kira, who had been in suspended animation since before human civilization began. The recording shifted to show Kira's awakening, the alien's graceful movements, and the vast memory, core filled with crystallized knowledge. Jake watched the faces in the audience transform from skepticism to wonder to fear as the implications became clear. Kira's people, the Ancients, were destroyed by an enemy called the Devourers, beings that consume entire galaxies before moving on to the next. These creatures follow predictable cycles, and according to ancient records, they will arrive in our galaxy within 40 years. The murmurs turned into concerned discussions. Several delegates were already speaking urgently into communication devices, no doubt alerting their governments to this unprecedented crisis. But Kira also brought hope, Jake said, raising his voice to regain attention. The ancients saw something in humanity that they had never encountered before, an ability to adapt, innovate, and survive against impossible odds. With their knowledge and our determination, we have a chance to succeed where they failed. On cue, the guardian ships decloaked around Earth, their organic forms clearly visible against the starfield. The vessels were beautiful, flowing constructions that seemed more grown than built, their hulls pulsing with the same bioluminescent patterns as Harmony. These ships represent the beginning of humanity's transformation, Jake explained. Each one is crewed by individuals from different nations, working together as guardians of our species' future. The technology they contain can take us to the stars, heal our world's wounds, and prepare us for the greatest challenge any civilization has ever faced. Secretary General Maria Santos stood from her seat. Mr. Miller, assuming this is real, why didn't you contact official channels immediately? Why work in secret for 5 years? Jake had expected this question. Because the ancients tried that approach with other species. Every time they shared their knowledge with established governments first, those governments used it to gain advantage over their neighbors. The species would fracture, fight among themselves, and fall to the devourers without putting up effective resistance. He gestured to the guardian ships. Instead, we distributed the knowledge gradually, letting it emerge through your existing scientific communities. No single nation has an advantage, because all nations contributed to the breakthroughs. The medical advances came from researchers in 12 different countries. The energy technologies were developed simultaneously in laboratories across 6 continents. President Shun of the Asian Federation leaned forward. What do you want from us now? Unity, Jake said simply. The formation of a true world government. Not one that replaces your existing nations, but one that can coordinate humanity's defense against an external threat. The Devourers have consumed millions of civilizations. The only ones that survived were those that stood together as a single species. The Russian delegate stood. And if we refuse? If we choose to handle this threat individually? Jake's expression grew somber. Then in 40 years, Earth will become another dead world in the Devourer's wake. The choice is yours. But remember, this isn't about politics or national interests anymore. This is about the survival of everything human civilization has ever created or dreamed of becoming. The assembly erupted into heated discussions as delegates contacted their capitals. Jake stepped back, knowing he had done everything possible to prepare this moment. The seeds Kira had planted in his mind years ago were finally bearing fruit. Humanity's greatest test was about to begin, and for the first time since discovering the ancient ship, Jake felt genuinely hopeful about their chances. The species that had evolved from scattered tribes to a global civilization in mere millennia was about to take its next evolutionary leap. The galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk.